Hey guys, William Padilla Brown coming at you from the Lemoyne Mushroom MicroFarm. My apologies, I haven't been updating as usual or as regularly as I have been on YouTube. Been very busy, lots of things going on, but lots of exciting things to come. But yeah, we're looking at some pink oysters here at the Lemoyne Mushroom MicroFarm. It is June 18th, Saturday, so I did just harvest. So there's not a lot of mushrooms in the microfarm right now. I did farmer's market on 4th Street in New Cumberland this morning, and it went well. So we do have some lion's manes coming in. I did harvest all the larger lion's manes, so all the lion's manes that we do have in here are fairly small, but we do have a couple coming in, which we'll be harvesting on our next week's for our next week's harvest. So I have stalled on installing the rows in the time that I wanted to. I wanted to do them on every week, install another row. But as I installed this last row, I ran into my mushroom block stalling to fruit due to the amount of CO2 that was being produced in here. So there was just way too much CO2. I turned this fan on high, which I originally did not even want to cut into the window and stick a fan in there, but I had to because I had some issues with culturing out the algae earlier this season. So I had to restart with most of my algae cultures, and wasn't that big a deal. It just took a couple weeks to get everything to where I needed it to be. So for those of you that don't know or didn't know, this design for this room uses algae to produce the fresh oxygen or the fresh air that's necessary for the mushrooms to produce. So mushrooms put off lots of CO2, and they need fresh air in order to produce the mushrooms in the fashion that you would like them to produce to take to market. So in order to do that, you need to rig up some sort of fan system, which I wasn't really too interested in because pulling air out and dealing with a fresh air system that way takes out the humidity that you need in here to get your mushrooms producing. So you can put your fans on timers and all that kind of stuff, but through my research and working at my home with my smaller mushroom tent, I found that using algae in my mushroom tent was the easiest way to have a fresh air exchange, and it was pretty darn cool. So without the fan in this room, this humidifier will get this thing like 100% humidity in here. Like I left it on for like 4 or 5 hours one night, and came in here and I couldn't even see my hand in front of my face. It was so much fog. So that humidifier is very effective, but with this fan in the window pulling out air to get the oxygen that I needed, I have to keep this humidifier on all the time. So I can put the humidifier back on a timer and have it just come off and on throughout the day to moderate it, humidity around 80%. I found is very effective for what I'm doing in here. So if you haven't heard it bubbling in the background, I finally got the algae into the mushroom microfarm. So I've just installed this zipper here, and I'm gonna go ahead and open it up for you guys. And welcome to the algae room. So we're starting out with 3 photobioreactors here, and we have some chlorella, some spirulina, and some Nanochloropsis. This is the Nanochloropsis gaditana. This is spirulina, Arthospira platensis, and this is the chlorella vulgaris. These are from Algae Research Supply. Shouts out to Matt Huber. Algae Research Supply is a great company. If you want to start growing algae, I recommend getting your cultures from them. Aside from that, the future vision of this room, we're going to get some plastic tubes that are custom fit to fit in this room, and I'm just going to line this whole thing, probably about 10 photobioreactors, and remove this thing and this thing here to allow people to walk on either side of them and enjoy them as a works of art and as a functioning system. So this is the lungs of the room, and what needs to be done is we're going to cut a hole here, and I'm just going to put a fan in here that's going to be running at a very low speed, pulling in air from the mushroom room. So the CO2 is heavier than oxygen. It's going to be down on the ground. So this fan's going to be down here. We're going to be pulling in the CO2 enriched air, and I'll have a fan, a small fan, desktop fan or something mounted here to push up the air, because these pumps are going to be mounted on the wall. We like to have our pumps above the photobioreactors so that if anything happens, no water goes back into the pumps. So the CO2 enriched air will go through our pumps into our algae photobioreactors, where the algae will capture the CO2. It'll take the carbon, utilize that as a carbon source to grow, and then it'll put fresh oxygen back out through its filter, which we will then have another fan here, slowly pulling air back out, and the oxygen, the enriched air, will come back out here, the fresh air, and it will help our mushrooms grow. So I'll have an oscillating fan here to help push the air back around, and then the air will just get pulled back through that fan over there. So if I change anything to the designs, you guys will know. I'll keep posting updates. And with the prototype, I was doing 5-pound block, one 5-pound block to 1 gallon of algae. So ideally, I mean, what do I got in here right now? I don't know off the top of my head, but for each of these mushroom hangers, I'm gonna need a 5-gallon photobioreactor. But I want to get some bigger plastic tubes in, as I said. So I'll probably just have one or two tube photobioreactors running for each active row of mushroom blocks. But we'll see how it goes. I'm going to keep running small closed loop systems, and we have some CO2 monitors at the local hydroponic store that we're going to start playing around with the mushroom blocks, because we are selling fungi bags, is what we're calling them, at the hydroponic store, Hydroponics of Harrisburg. They're manufactured by us, MycoSymbiotics, at the laboratory in New Cumberland, and they're just mushroom spawn bags, either shiitake or reishi, that you can use in your indoor gardens to produce CO2. And your plants will act like my algae does and use up the CO2 to help the plant grow, and it'll produce oxygen that will help your mushrooms grow. So you can get those at Hydroponics of Harrisburg, and we'll be doing some experiments to see exactly how much CO2 the mushroom blocks are producing on average, and exactly how much CO2 the algae tanks are taking up, and how much oxygen they're producing. So if you like this video, hit the thumbs up, share on Facebook and Twitter, and your favorite permaculture blogs, mycology blogs, phycology blogs, anything like that. Other than that, it's been William Padilla Brown. We're here at the Mushroom MicroFarm in Lemoyne. I hope that everybody can grow some really cool things and do something awesome for their community. Propagate and mycelium.